Good morning, church. Welcome to Mother's Day 2017. It's great to have you all here. As you probably know, Lisa Kay and I are out of town this weekend. We are at a wedding for my nephew, and then we decided to take some extra time and go ahead and see the Grand Canyon while we were out in Arizona. So we missed being with you guys today, but we wanted to bring you this special video message. This video message is brought to you by 4 women at our church, 4 women that come from very different backgrounds, very different lives, and yet they come together to share the wisdom that they've gathered through raising children in the different stages and the different opportunities and challenges that they had raising children. So I want you to enjoy this message this morning as these women share their heart with you. Last week we shared the verse out of our Divine Direction series from Proverbs 4:7, and it says, "Wisdom is supreme, therefore get wisdom. Though it cost you all you have, get understanding." And we talked about this idea of walking with the wise. Today I want to present to you 4 women that I look to in our church who have looked for God's wisdom in raising up their children and being mothers and women of God. So this morning, as they share their heart stories with you, I pray that God will speak to you through them in this video. Love you, church.
Dan and I, we got married when I was 18. So we kind of started trying right away to have kids. We always wanted to have a lot of kids. So it took us 5 years and still nothing. So we ended up adopting. We got Caleb, and that was crazy. We were actually in line to adopt another child, and that one fell through. It was a little girl, and it fell through. I think it was like 2 days before she was supposed to have her. She called. She was 16. She called and she was like, "I want to keep the child." And I'm like, "Okay, I can't knock you for that, you know." So she actually ended up being roommates to Caleb's birth mother. So she heard. During the time, they asked Dan and I if we'd willing to put our name and our portfolio back in the bucket, I guess you'd say. And we're like, Dan was like, "Sure, just go ahead." And I'm like, "No, I don't want this again. That hurt. Like, we had the room, we had like, you know, clothes and stuff for her. I'm like, "I don't want to do that, no." And Dan's like, "You know what, if it's God's will and it happens, and you know, we'll have one." I'm like, "Okay." So we went ahead and said, "Okay, yeah, go ahead." It was like a week later or something. The lady that runs the shelter that Caleb's birth mother was in, she called and she's like, "Hey, you guys were chosen. The mother's due." I don't remember when she said she was due, but it just seemed like it was coming close. So we're like, "Okay." They're like, "Well, we'll get a hold of you when the time gets closer." I'm like, "Okay." So we waited around, and we knew that we were going to have a kid. We didn't know what he was. We're like, "Okay." We told all our family members that we're planning on adopting another one. And so everybody was really excited. And we were actually here at church, and the lady called and said, "Hey, you need to come because your child's going to be born sometime soon." And we're like, "What?" I'm like, "Already?" It's like later. So I called Dan. Dan was at work. Called Dan, told him, come back, whatever. And we went ahead and left and drove up there, and we were there for 2 days, and we were able to get Caleb and name him ourselves, and he was a little boy, obviously. But so that was really, I remember actually holding Caleb and thinking to myself, how am I going to fall in love with this child? Like, how am I going to fall in love with this child? And I remember holding him and like looking down on him and thinking, he's perfect. How about it? So it wasn't long and I fell in love with him. It wasn't long at all.
even though we had committed our kids to the Lord from like day one or whatever, you know. Our church didn't, I didn't know any protocols, you know, not being churched when I was young. What I've noticed through the years that most people dedicate their children like at about year old, you know, but it's like we didn't know any better, so we went to church the first time after Jonathan was born, and Dennis just got up and said, "Hey, you know, we dedicate this child to God."
Yeah.
And we did that with the other two too. It's like they're God's. And so I think when I look at culture today, I look at people, and it's often like they're having children to fulfill themselves. Do you know what I mean? And it's not like, oh, okay, this child is God's, and I'm a steward. You know, and don't get me wrong, I mean, we really enjoyed our kids, you know, but I think underlying in all that is like, we need to bring this child up for the Lord. And so we need to make decisions that are good for this child, not, oh, this makes me feel good, and I want this child to make me feel good. It wasn't, as much as possible, it wasn't about what we were getting from the child. It was more about the kingdom of God, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. I always say that I'm babysitting God's children. Like, my boys are not mine, they're God's, and I'm babysitting them. So, yeah.
Yeah, I like that. I like
That
that.
is nice. That is so true. I remember with both my pregnancy, I loved taking just a long hot bath, and I would be in a bath and I would just talk to my baby, both pregnancy and my womb, and I just pray and I just think, God, I want you to bless them early. I want you to save them early, in life, and he did just that, and it's just so much. I'm looking back now, and I'm thinking about. I remember when my babies, my twins, when I brought them home. I remember it was a hot summer day, and I put them in the bed in their little crib because they were so tiny. They were tiny for not so much tiny for twins. They were both 6 pounds, basically.
Yeah.
5'11" and 6 pounds.
That's
my daughter.
amazing for twins.
Yeah, and I put them in their little cribs, and I looked down on them and I said, God, thank you for my babies, but I give them back to you. I give them to you, Father, to do as you will, for them in their lives. And so as they got older and they're growing up and they're going through changes and whatnot, I'm like, okay, God, take care of your children. Those are yours. They're wilding out. And I would, just, kind of give it back to them. And I think about it, I'm like, God, I remember praying one time, and I said, God, when they get ready to go to college and they get ready to go to school, I said, I don't want to have to pay 1 penny for their education. I said, I don't want to have to pay a penny for their education. And it happened. I didn't have to pay anything for their education, for them to go off to college. But as parents, you can have one idea
and a plan, and they can have another idea and a plan. So it didn't quite work out like that for my boys. They did go off to school, but they kind of got into a fraternity and just really got into all of that aspect of it. Whereas my daughter, she's still in school. She's at Ball State. She's doing well. And it's just the thought of how you can pray for things in your children's life even before they're born, and how God listens to those still, quiet prayers. And He answers those. And sometimes you don't realize it until later. Like, oh my God, you answered this prayer and that prayer and this prayer. And now that they're older, they're young adults, and they're not necessarily doing everything that I desire for them to do. By no means are, thank God, all three of my kids are good young adults. But there are some things you kind of want to tweak and do better and say, hey, why don't you do this? Or instead of doing that. And it's really hard as a mom transitioning from mom to a mom who gives advice and they not necessarily take your advice. That hurts. And they don't do it, I don't think they do it maliciously. It's just because you don't have that control, like, say for right now that you have. You can tell your boys what, and they better do it. And they better do it or they're going to be punished. We can tell our young adults what is good and what will be right for them. And if they don't do it, it hurts. It's just like, you don't understand. I'm sitting here giving you a flashlight in a dark tunnel, and you rather go blindly into the tunnel. That hurts when you want to give good advice to them, good sound advice, at least you think that is. And to just give up, like, okay, Lord, they're adults. They don't have to listen to me anymore. You know what I mean? And so for me, that's a transition that I'm having right now, that I'm having a difficult time with, because whereas you want to help them and lead them and guide them in the right direction, and they don't always heed to that, for me, it's difficult. And I'm getting better at it, because what I do know, if I don't step back as a mom and stop trying to be a mom and more of a counselor, a person that they can pray with and they can talk with, I can burn bridges. I can put them in a place where they don't necessarily want to seek my advice or seek my counsel in certain things. And so I'm asking God to help me with that. And one of the things that I was thinking, I'm like, okay, Lord, Pastor Dave wanted us to do this round table, but I don't really know what to say, because I'm in a place where my transitioning is hard. My transitioning is not easy. And I was like, I don't know what verse to come up with. I don't know what, it's so many that I can use for them and for me. And one of the things that came up for me was in James 1 and 19 through 26 of being hearers and doers of the word of God. You know, I have to know that God is with them, and that everything that I prayed for God to do in their life, He will do those things, but in His timing, not in my timing. Sometimes we mothers tell our kids, okay, pick up your room, clean your room up, do it now, get it done. Sit down at the table, get your homework done, do it now. You're so used to doing those things, and they're doing it because that's what you said. I want you to do it now. I want you to do your homework now. I want you to clean your room now. I want you to go take your bath now. I want you to do this now. But when they're young adults, I want you to call me today. I want you to do that. I want you to take your car into the shop. Had you to do this? Had you done this? Had you do that? I want you to look for a better job. I want you to think about going back to school. But if they don't do those things, what do you do? What do you do?
Well, you've raised them under the shelter of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the best thing we can do as moms is just get down on our knees and pray for our children. And like you said, you've given your children to Him, but you really have to give them to Him. And they have to, and they have to walk their path. Boy, he sure is.
Yes, he is.
And when before Steve and I got married and I was divorced, after the divorce I was a working mom and I had 3 girls, and I have to say I was in Christ, but I wasn't a Christian. I mean, I didn't practice, I didn't walk the walk, but and I was in control. I thought I could fix everything, do everything for my daughters. And when I met Steve, which was only 3 months later, and we fell in love, and he's a very strong Christian man, I realized that, I didn't have control. I always tried to fix things, even with my stepdaughters. And I have Psalm 62:5. My soul waits silently for God alone, for my expectation is from Him. And I've had to learn that through the years, that sometimes I need to be quiet and not be the fixer of everything, because I don't have all the answers.
I agree. We just don't have all the answers. And I remember that transition that you were talking about. That's a hard transition when you're going from, and thankfully, I guess Dennis and I kind of proactively looked at, I don't know, from reading James Dobson or whatever, that, it's a process of when they're little, tiny, Asa, I mean, yeah, you do have control. And then, we did deliberately loosen up. You hear some families, their kids hit the teen years and they kind of clamp down. Yeah. And it's like, no, because they need that. And so kind of, we did the same thing that you did, talking about praying for your children. I remember the 3 of the main things we prayed. That they would come to know the Lord at young, tender ages. That they would be boys and men after God's own heart. And from, I think it's, I'll get the scripture. And then in James, talks about, in verse 1, chapter 1, verse 5, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives it liberally and without reproach, and it will be given to him. And that was like almost a daily prayer. God, give us wisdom. Because, even if we think we understand and we think we know, we don't know. It's like, And so that was just our heart's cry to God, is that He would work in their lives and that He would give us wisdom, because you're right. It's like, and so thankfully, as they got bigger, we kind of decided to pick our fights. You know, it became a matter of balance. Because they are going to make their own decisions, and we just, you know, thankfully they didn't make any big big problem decisions. You know, maybe Woody would have stepped in. I mean, I know we spoke into certain situations, but I think we also, as they became young men, we spoke into their lives and we had confidence in them. That they would pray. And thankfully, you know, they all did come to the Lord in their ages. Because, yeah, we've been blessed. But I think of the scripture also, and let me see, Proverbs 22, you know, as I thought about the things to share along the way with us getting together, I thought of this one because it's been really an important thing in our lives, is Proverbs 22:6. It says, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they are old, they will not depart from it. And someplace along the way in our lives, we realized that wasn't train them up like we think they should go.
Right.
It was, you know, God, what have you placed in their lives? You know, what direction do you want them to go? And again, like you were saying, babysitters for God, it's like, well, if God, you want them to go, you've put talents in them, and you've put this and that in their lives, and what do we need to do to help bring that about? You know, because our sons are very different. You know, yes, we have 2 engineers, but they're very different. And then we have our pastor, missionary son, you know, and it's what God put in them that was really important, and how we could, you know, schooling and everything else, those decisions of what do you want, Lord? And realizing also that, you know, character traits, this was another wild one that we realized. We have strong-willed sons. I mean, there's just no doubt about it. They're all strong-willed. They probably would all tell you that. And, you know, when they were younger, I thought stubborn. That's the word I associated with that, strong-willedness. But then at a certain point, and I can't remember who spoke into my life that, you know, kind of woke me up to this, is most character traits have 2 sides of a coin. On the other side from stubborn is determined. On the other side of lazy is efficient. And if you start thinking of some of those character traits that you might go, oh man, I need to really wipe this out of this child. You look at the other side of that coin and you go, oh, well, that's a really important character trait that God might have put in them. You know, and it's that balance. It's like, wow, mind-boggling. I need wisdom.
Well, church, I hope you found that video, that the interview with those 4 ladies, to be helpful and encouraging. And I hope that, as we were talking about last week, that there's some wisdom that we can glean from the stories that they shared, and as they're still working through the process of being mothers and working through all the transitions and what that looks like. I just want to give a special thanks out to LaTanya and Aline and Tina and Diane for being willing to share their heart. It's not always easy to do. And I want to let you know that this is probably just a tip of the iceberg of what they shared together as they just conversated for about an hour together as we made this video. And an interesting thing happened. And one of the things that we desire to see happening here at New Creation is this idea of building community, that we're going to create community together. And even in that time that they just spent together, sharing these thoughts of what it's like to be a parent, you could see the community that was being built as they shared with one another and as they prayed with one another and as they loved on one another. And I just want to say a special thank you and blessing to all you moms that are here visiting with us today. Moms, we love you, and we know that sometimes your job is one of the most, unappreciated and just so often you get such little thanks, and there's such a great role that you play in our community here at New Creation, in your homes, and in the greater community. Just thanks for the love, the time, the concerns, the prayers, and the tears that you give in raising the children. And we love you, moms. We love you. Just thanks again for joining us today. We're just so grateful that you have come and spent this time with us here at New Creation. We just want to bless you today. And so Steve Plew is going to come up now, and he's going to close our service this morning. And we just want to let you know that, God loves you. And we are just so grateful that you were here today. Special blessing to you, moms, on this Mother's Day 2017. We love you, church.